Hello, everybody. American Granny here. I was thinking about this business with all this farmland that the government is confiscating. It's up to something like 17 different states are eminent domaining farmland. And for a multitude of purposes, but it always goes back for corporate use. That way the corporations don't have to buy the land. They just work on the government's land, and they get a lease for how many ever decades they want to use it. So basically, I was thinking about this, and if in your community you have this kind of thing happening, and you're worried about your local food source, I cannot even afford to buy my local business from my local businesses here, because they charge more for ground beef or a steak or something like that. But the only store, now let me finish, the only store that I actually have that close to me is our little local Two Rivers. It's kind of a catch-all little grocer. They don't have a whole lot. They don't ever have a whole lot. But what they do have is good quality. And it's coming mostly from the local people here. Maybe the leftover steak from when they did some butchering of their cattle, or that kind of thing. You can find some name brand stuff there, but like I said, the prices are much higher because we are considered a vacation town. We're kind of a tourist spot, but mostly it's a vacation town because we have the river near us. They have all kinds of wonderful, beautiful resorts that are actually affordable. But that's why the prices are higher there, because most of the people that shop there are tourists. The average person like me shops often at Dollar General or Walmart. We don't have a whole lot of options. We do have another store, I can't think of what it's called. It tells you I've never shopped there. I guess we're supposed to be getting an Aldi's, which I don't know whether to be happy or not. My mother would be overjoyed. But what I was thinking was, if your communities are doing this, depending on what kind of water restrictions they're also adding on you, you need to petition to put in a bill that gives you the right to grow food for yourselves. Now, if you're in the city, it can be done. You can't tell me it can't be done, because I've done it. Now, it's not easy. Nobody ever said it would be. And you can't grow an abundance without using a lot of electricity. But I moved here to Arkansas, and it's me. I have not figured out how to grow properly in the soil that I have, because I need someone to come in and really turn the soil, and so I can get a lot of the roots and other things out, so that I can maintain the garden easier. Because I'd have to go out and buy a ton of soil to do above ground. Now, once that dirt is turned and it's cleaned out good, then I can actually put in boxes before I put in the dirt, and then grow what I need to grow. But it's a little different terrain than what I'm accustomed to working with. But you need to work in your community. Even if you're just growing a few plants outside, hanging from a window to get enough light. See if your landlord will allow you to do that. And, don't just go say, hey, I want to put this on. Is that okay? Say, I want to put this up because I want to grow some tomatoes, which grow in just about every conditions I've lived in. So that's pretty good. They have a wide range where they can grow hardy. And in baskets these days, you can grow your own tomatoes, hanging baskets, and offer to give him some or her when your tomatoes grow. This is an old-fashioned bartering system to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. But if your problem is your local government restraining you from having the right to produce anything in your home, I mean, if you have one neighbor who is growing sweet basil and sage, and you have another neighbor that is growing, and you've got apartments, and I can guarantee you most people who have apartments or homes of any kind that have small children today, the TV is on. Your electricity is being used. Your children are running around playing while you are working feverishly to get the house ready for the next day and prepare meals or whatever, task you have to attend to. Because now I used to go overboard sometimes with the cleaning because I lived in the city, and dealing with roaches was something I hated. They just can overwhelm everything and destroy everything. And people are like, well, yeah, but they're a part of, so yes, they are. And they're a part of a community not working together to keep these numbers low. We don't want to get rid of them. They actually serve a purpose. Many of them eat bad spiders. They eat a lot of things you don't want coming in your home, besides the stuff in your home. Now, the biggest thing is we don't understand them. Now, simple things do work. Now, my mother used a mix of boric acid with table salt. And she would put out a thin line around the borders of the walls and the windowsills and the top of the windows if you have a trim. And then she would take a spray bottle of some of that and spray her upper part of her home. And of course she did this all the way around the house, but she would pull out her stove, her refrigerator, clean the area, and then put everything back. And we lived inner city Chicago, and my mother, you might see a cockroach, but it was usually on its way out of that place. Because you also have to be consistent. It doesn't last forever. About every 60 days, you need to go do it, depending on how many of your neighbors have moved in and out. So, if you control your bugs, that's one way. Another way is to grow a plant. And you could buy these little LED lights, I actually have some, that will grow a small herb plant. And an herb plant, as long as you trim it, it will get bigger and bigger, and it will get happier and happier, but you don't want to over trim them. So, but all of these things we still can use. We're just so accustomed to having manufactured. And if you haven't noticed, our government is trying to wean us off, like a mother breastfeeding does. You wean your baby off of your milk onto more solid foods. That's what our government is basically doing with us. Except in a lot of places, and this seems to be a Democratic thing, I haven't found anywhere where Republicans are really supporting any kind of mandate to stop you from growing small plants in your home. Now, yeah, they take a little maintenance. If there are window plants, for sure, because you have to turn your plant. You do a half spin, if they're counting on sunlight from the window, unless it's under a sunroof or whatever, those old sun, yeah. Anyway, push for mandates to add yourself back into your own government's decisions, because they're just doing what they think is great for them for money, and we know it. That is the problem with capitalist nations. You know, I don't know why we have to be one or the other. Why can't we take both good points and blend them together and let them work together so that the system is beneficial to everybody? And if they want to continue to rip away our food sources, we're going to need other ways. And the vegetarians are going to find that they are not going to be able to eat. So while they're screaming their diet is the best in the world and the only way humans should eat, though I disagree, it's your thing, baby. But what are you going to do when you can't get your food and you live in a state that does not allow you to grow plants for food in your house? Because there are some. Mostly West Coast, which is astonishing to me. That whole city should be producing enough sustenance to keep the community going. The only resources they need then are their proteins. And I'm talking meat proteins. You've got to have it. That's your iron, I know you can get some from plants, but your body doesn't absorb all of it when you're doing it through plants. Your muscles do not get enough. Your brain does not get enough. I mean, if you do not want to eat red meat, which in smaller amounts is actually very healthy for you, if you don't like red meat, a lot of people don't, get accustomed to fish. Chicken does not have the same nutrients as beef, pork, or lamb, or goat even. Some of the best tortillas or tacos I ever tasted was in Lockport, Illinois, and it was from a immigrant that had moved in the neighborhood, and he had a little cart, and him and his wife would make these delicious goat meat tacos, and they were and the tortillas were made using goat milk. So it was delicious. It was delicious, but I can't go buy anything like that in my store because we think of goats for something else. I don't know why. They are highly nutritious meat. You ask anyone from Iceland or any of the areas that have heavy mountains like Alaska, the goat meat is delicious. If it's wild, of course, you have to. But I think he kind of raised his in his teeny tiny little backyard that he had. But he took care of the yard, and yeah, the animals got a little loud, but nobody mattered. It didn't bother anybody. It was a better sound than the gunshots. Okay, the area was rough. I called it the United Nations because it was a mix of people that lived in there. There was, of course, my husband and I. He's Scottish. I'm Nordic, I guess. Yeah, Nordic and Baltic region. I don't know what all I am there. I think maybe a lot of German and maybe some Austrian. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's necessary during difficult times in an economy for the people to be able to provide some sustenance, not just for themselves. Now, I have been blessed with this incredible place, but I'm old by the time I got it, and I was already sick. So having to do what I do, especially now that it's mostly just me. It was mostly just me the last part of the year my sister was here, because my husband was doing his thing, and of course I did mine. And really miss her, by the way. And yes, I'm going to say it, Diana. I still love you, and I still care, and I think that the fact that you are hiding from your entire family, which mostly me, and your niece and nephew, who don't know why you disowned them, because they didn't do anything. That fight was between you and me. That's pretty lame. If you don't want to talk to me, fine. At least make peace with your niece and nephew who do know you. Maybe not really well, but they do know you. And they've only heard wonderful things about you when you were here. And I was going back and forth, and so they have no ill thoughts against you. And they are not picking a side, because they love you as well as they love me. Okay, enough of that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I keep losing track. This is one of those days for me. I do apologize. I've been sorting seeds and working in the indoor garden because, like I said, I really have, this place is not set up for me to even grow a proper garden that I could maintain. And I can't do it myself, and my husband really doesn't have much interest in it. He just wants to do like the average American and live day by day and wake up and sleep and eat, and it's a robotic life, but it's life. So, okay. Before you go and you go into any big projects, set up the area you want to use to grow. Meaning you may have to rearrange some furniture. I used to rearrange my furniture a lot because it had to fit not only my family's uses, but for whatever projects I was working on, like plants that I was growing, or whatever. I also do some crocheting, and I need craft space, or I'm baking or doing something. So I'm always moving my house around to fit whatever my needs are. And if I could, I would put every piece of furniture I have on wheels just to make it easier for me. I mean, sometimes I may only move it a few feet so I can clean, but it'll end up somewhat back to where it was. Anyway, I am arguing with myself today because I have been thinking, my husband and I eat a lot of bread, and because we live on sandwiches mostly. I mean, I do cook meals. I cook one big meal, and it lasts us for 2 days or so, and then I will do a day or two of sandwiches. And so we go through a lot of that. And lost my train of thought. We've been buying more bread. That's what it is, because we've been buying less big groceries. I mean, the generic ground beef from Walmart, I get the biggest roll I can get, and I cut it down, break it down, and freeze it. So to try and make that last me a whole month for the two people. And my husband and I both, we don't pile a place. I will do that to my husband when he's hardworking, but when he's just, his job lately has not been as physically demanding as usual, so he's cut down his own portions on his own. I'm just not as hungry, babe. I get it. You're not using as much. That's good. You're fine with me, and what we have is lasting longer. So that's just a few of my tidbits, I guess you would call it, ways that I stretch out everything. When we go grocery shopping and we buy meat, I try to get the biggest bags of meat that I can get. And whatever's on sale, that's the meat I'm using this week. Now that's kind of old school, but I've always shopped that way because I did have a large family to cook for. Now I don't have a large family to cook for, and I still shop the same way, and I still break down everything like it did. It just now, instead of half of that will go to one meal, I get to break it down even to smaller amounts, which stretch it further. I really need to get this gardening thing going for myself, because like I told my husband, you know, the things we talked about doing, I don't ever see coming to a reality, because he actually shows no interest in it. He likes to talk about it, but he doesn't ever just get up and start doing the project and say, you know, we were talking about putting a greenhouse here or building this there. Why do we? He's tired. He's almost 50. He's worked since he was probably 13 years old or so, 13, 14 maybe. And he's always been able to earn his own money, which is, a lot of young kids don't do that today. They depend on mom and dad, because we went through this period where we were making a little bit more money than our costs of living were. So we would have a little bit extra left over more frequently. And instead of being frugal, as my grandmother would say, where you tuck it in a jar and you put it away for when you hit those hard times. But she knew our government. She lived to be in her 80s. I think she was actually 83, maybe a little bit older when she passed away. And so she had gone through a recession. She'd gone through a whole life of government and its ups and downs with the economy, which I think they regularly do that to us. And I kind of see that as a trend that Americans really need to get our government to say, if we don't fix these frickin' problems, we're not going to have a government anymore. Because the people are just going to look at us as all dictators. And we're pretty close to that. And that mostly has been the Democrats doing for the last, I don't know, 50 years or so. So it's something you got to learn to deal with. And but I still think it would be a good idea. And you know, if you've got a little bit of window light, or you can afford to go to Amazon and get these little LED lights that plug in, and most of them have timers. So if it's a young plant, you could keep it on for quite a few hours as needed. The lights don't get super hot and burn the plants. I have 3 of them, I think, and I like to use them when I first start my plants. If I'm starting from seed especially, they like that thing. And it really doesn't cost me a whole lot in electricity either. And I can put it on a counter. And if you can put it on a counter that is like in a corner, even better. You would think the opposite, but the LEDs are brighter when they're like under a cabinet. So that's just, but think about yourselves. You know, everybody says, everybody's so selfish. Well, here's some good ways to think about yourself. You know, oregano is a natural antibiotic. It boosts your immune system. And most people don't know it. And all you got to do is, after you cook your food or make your salad, sprinkle a little oregano in it. I have an Italian mix that's got rosemary and all that kind of stuff in it that I use. But when I have fresh homegrown, I use my fresh. I will go and cut me down some. There is nothing that tastes better in a salad than sweet basil that you just snipped off your plant, and added to your salad fresh. It's incredible. I had never had a salad like that until I lived here and started learning how to grow my own herbs. And it could be more challenging than people think. But a sweet basil tea, I have just taken hot water, added some mint and some sweet basil tea, and drank that, and it was so delicious, and my throat felt so much better because of, first of all, hot liquid, secondly, because of the mint, and you can even add a little bit of lemon. And it's just an herbal tea instead of having to buy the processed dried stuff that they may have treated with you don't know what to get it to last longer. Now I'm finding out that the shelf life for most herbs, if you dry them naturally, it's actually quite long. And getting them in a glass jar once they're purely dry is very important. Don't put it in a plastic jar. It's going to cause moisture for some reason to be allowed to get into the jars eventually. Now, most of my jars, I have jars stacked of stuff I've grown. I keep a lot of spearmint in the house because our winters, when the house is closed up, and especially if we have to use the fireplace, you get dry throat, you get sinuses drying up, and then you go outside and it's cold and wet, and yeah, it can be rough. But some wonderful, I make a hot toddy out of my spearmint. I'll make myself some spearmint tea, and I know a lot of people are like, well, how do you do that? You don't want the leaves in your tea. Yeah, you do. Drink the leaf. Just drink the leaf. It's not going to harm you. It's actually good for you, unless you plan on brewing another cup of tea. But it's very good for you. And I will add about a half a shot to mine because I do have diabetes, and all alcohol is sugar and yeast, depending on what the alcohol is. So I have some Concord grapes this year. I actually let them just grow crazy again because I tried a new growth way with it, because it wasn't planted in the way you would see most grapes planted. It's basically just a bush, and it's gorgeous, and it's getting huge now. So I let it have all those natural things it would normally have back when it comes fall and winter. Because next year, I bet you, I will have a double harvest of Concord grapes. And I'm so excited. I'll get to make my first jellies. Now, I have a small room. It's very small. Maybe 8 foot by 8.5 foot, because it's got a slanted ceiling. So it's not a huge room that I grow all of my garden in. I need to move around our lights because they're not set in a way that they're bunched too close together. So the light is kind of canceling light out at the same time. It's not projecting it out far enough where I get to use the full space of that room. I'm only actually using maybe 6 foot of it. But I'm going to warn you, if you want to grow inside, be prepared. Your light bill is going to go up if you do like I do. And only reason I'm doing it this way, because I didn't want to, is I was hoping this summer to get my garden in place. But we have some things we need to do before we put the garden in. Our tank for our well is way too small to do proper watering of a decent sized garden. I tried to do it, and I don't know how many times I had to reset my well because I drained my tank. So I need to add onto that tank, or I need to change it out for a bigger one, which we were talking about doing. Will it ever get to that point? I don't know. We got some bills we got to pay off before we can even begin saving money for that kind of thing. And on my YouTube channel, I am not monetized. I do not monetize my own stuff. I'm not thinking about doing it. I mean, from what I've seen with the nightmare over censorship, and then so many good channels that I'm used to watching being demonetized for no reasons, I really need to stay away from that. So, but I did want to, and I was going to show how I run my small homestead, because I don't have animals. I haven't got that far yet. I couldn't afford to take on other mouths to feed, and if they need doctor care or any of that, I can't afford to do that right now. I'm not self-sufficient, far from it. And about the time that I get self-sufficient, it'll be over for me. So, okay, not high hopes there. But anyway, I do love y'all. I enjoy my conversations with you. I really enjoy just kind of opening up my mind and talking to y'all about what's in my head. And I know lately I've been pretty focused on what's happening in the country. It's because I am not a prepper, full blown, but I am not an anti-prepper. I do believe in storing up a little extra, because that was how, when times were really bad for me and my family, we managed to survive and still have food in our stomachs and keep things going. So I thought I'd share that with you and tell you, I kind of miss really talking to you. Okay, my video is over a half hour long. My laptop is going to go, well, it's not a laptop, it's a little Chromebook. Works for this kind of thing pretty good, most of the time. Alright, folks, I love you. Like, share, comment, please. I very rarely get to talk to anybody on here, so, or share some of your ideas. I like that kind of thing. Believe it or not, I do read the comments that I do get, and if they are things that I could try to make things work a little easier in my own life, then you can bet your sweet tunias I'll give it a try. I don't want to be a big star. I'm not going for that. I just wanted to use this to reach out and see what the world was really like, and let the world that I encounter get to know me. And so thank y'all for all the subscriptions. I actually am very grateful when I look and see that so many people have actually subscribed to my channel. I know I'm a little political. I'm an American. An American that says they don't have any views on politics is someone who just doesn't care anymore, or they don't want you to know their opinion because they're afraid that it's going to cause an argument or a dispute. Now, I grew up Democrat, and I am now, and probably will be for the rest of my life, a Republican, if those are the people that are going to work the hardest to begin turning our country into a country that is good for all the people in it. All the people in it. Not just corporations who have learned to use tax dollars as a weapon against us. And I want to see my Constitution put back in place. And all the damage done by Democrats altering it so that they can eminent domain land for corporations, that's got to stop. As far as I know, it's illegal. So it's really got to stop, and we do need somebody who's going to do that. All right. You heard my spiel. I do love y'all. And I hope that you take care of yourselves. And I really hope that you can take those weak bonds that you have in your family and make some amends with them so that you don't go out of this world with those losses when it's a loss that doesn't have to be. And that's all I gotta say. So, love y'all. American Granny out.